We can track the early history of Sumter County, Florida, through its bitter political fights and wandering courthouses, but the actual survival of the people who lived there was dictated entirely by the dirt. By 1886, this region was an agricultural monolith. Over 100 commercial growers were operating within the county lines, building massive wealth on a single crop, citrus. Then came the devastating winter of 1894. A series of deep, sustained freezes rolled across the Florida peninsula. The cold did far more than kill off that season's harvest. Temperatures dropped so low for so long that they split mature citrus trees completely down to their roots. Overnight, the county's primary economic engine was destroyed by the cold. Farmers woke up to worthless groves and the prospect of total financial ruin. Pacing quickens. To understand how this frontier population survived, we have to look past the pioneer legends and conduct a strict historical audit of the land, separating the verified crops that actually saved them from the localized myths of buried treasure. Faced with thousands of acres of dead trees, the surviving farmers rapidly pivoted. They looked away from the groves and out toward the open, pine-dotted scrublands, transitioning into massive cattle rancho operations. The open-range beef industry proved highly successful. It spurred an immediate economic recovery that drew thousands of new settlers to the region. Simultaneously, the rich soil where the orange groves once stood was turned over to vegetable truck farming. Massive row crops replaced the trees, requiring back-breaking manual labor to pull the harvest from the dirt. The yields were so massive that the town of Coleman eventually adopted a very specific, proud moniker, the cabbage capital of the world. While the tonnage coming out of Coleman undeniably kept the town alive, we have to view that title accurately. It was a successful civic marketing slogan, rather than an official, federally sanctioned agricultural designation. The recovery wasn't limited to the pastures and the vegetable fields. There was a secondary, desperate stopgap measure taking place in the woods, the extraction of pine resin for the naval stores industry. Modern historical mapping has verified that numerous turpentine stills were embedded directly within Sumter County's communities, processing raw sap into valuable industrial chemicals. But this extraction came with a severe human cost. While it provided critical jobs during a bleak economic window, the labor conditions in the pine camps were notoriously brutal and heavily exploitative. The verified presence of these turpentine camps prevents the county's history from being overly romanticized. Sumter's economic recovery was grounded in the harsh, unforgiving realities of frontier labor. Just across the county line, a different kind of extraction was taking place. In the 1890s, the Bone Valley phosphate boom was enriching neighboring counties like Marion and Polk. Because Sumter County shares immediate borders with those massive phosphate giants, superficial histories frequently assume Sumter was also a major hub of extraction. Cross-referencing local assumptions with the United States Geological Survey, the narrative abruptly halts. According to USGS Bulletins 604 and 934, the rock inside Sumter County was explicitly classified as low-grade. It was simply not commercially mined. The fertilizer industry was ruthless. Companies demanded only the absolute cream of their proven deposits. Sumter County didn't meet that standard, relegating it to a purely logistical role, using its railroads to move the ore mined by its neighbors. The myth of a Sumter County phosphate boom is geologically debunked. Hard extraction ledgers, rather than simple geographic proximity, provide the only reliable map of the region's wealth. Sumter County survived as a gritty, resilient, working county. Prosperity here was earned through physical labor, while the easy mineral wealth remained across the border. This deeply ingrained blue-collar identity, built squarely on cattle, cabbage, and the railroads that moved them, permanently stabilized the region. This agricultural culture proved incredibly durable. It defined the families, the economy, and the physical landscape, leaving it largely unchanged for the better part of a century. That hard-fought pioneer baseline created a landscape that remained largely unchanged for decades, right up until the most jarring shift in the county's history. The arrival of a massive master-planned retirement community is about to trigger a staggering demographic inversion, bringing intense developmental pressure that will threaten the very historic communities that cleared the land in the first place.